The oak front door of house number 402 inches Cedar Ridge Estates was rammed off its hinges. The tactical team stormed inside, shouting, "Police! Search warrant for house number 408. They carried no guns, only batons, breaching tools, and plastic restraints. Maya Williams was dragged onto the front lawn with her hands bound behind her back. When she heard the number 408, she immediately pointed toward the brass-plated address plaque beside the gate. "You keep shouting 408, but this is house 402. You have the wrong address." The young officer shined his flashlight on the search warrant, then compared it with the plaque. He reported to his commander, "Captain Rourke, the warrant says 408. We entered the wrong house." Rourke did not stop. He stepped directly in front of Maya and demanded, "Where is the hard drive?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Maya replied. Rourke turned and shouted, "Keep searching. Check every filing cabinet and break open the walls. We are not leaving without that storage device." The young officer hesitated. "But the address is wrong." "I said keep going," Rourke shouted. The officers immediately ripped open cabinet doors, knocked a computer onto the floor, and smashed through the drywall. A picture frame shattered. HOA records were torn apart and scattered everywhere. Residents from the surrounding homes poured outside to watch. A woman in her 30s, standing close to the fence, stepped toward Maya and whispered, "He isn't looking for drugs." Maya turned to her. "Who are you? Do you know what they're looking for?" Evelyn Carter did not answer. She immediately took a step back and disappeared into the crowd. Maya watched the woman vanish between the residents, but she had no time to follow her. Inside the house, another crash came from the hallway. Rourke had ordered his team into the study. The study was where Maya kept the records for Cedar Ridge Estates. For years, she had maintained copies of board decisions, maintenance agreements, resident complaints, insurance documents, and meeting minutes. She knew exactly what belonged in those cabinets. Now those records were being pulled onto the floor. "Stop," Maya called. "Those are HOA records. They have nothing to do with whatever warrant you are serving." Rourke glanced toward her from inside the doorway. "We're looking for a storage device. You keep saying that, but you have not explained why you think I have one." Rourke said nothing. Maya looked at the broken doorway, then toward the front entrance where the address plaque remained in plain view. The number was 402. There was no confusion about it. Anyone standing at the gate could see it. She raised her voice again. "Captain, your warrant is for 408. That house is not this house. You know that now." The young officer remained near the hallway. His flashlight was still in his hand. He looked from the warrant to Rourke, then back toward Maya. Rourke pointed toward the study. "Check the lower cabinets." The officer did not move immediately. "Captain," Rourke turned sharply. "What?" "The address discrepancy should be documented before we continue." Rourke stared at him. "It will be documented, but we are still searching the wrong property." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Rourke said, "You heard my order." The young officer lowered his eyes and continued the search. Maya watched him walk away. She understood something important then. The problem was no longer that the police had made a mistake. They had been given an opportunity to correct it, and they had chosen not to. She looked around the front lawn. More residents had come outside. Some stood in pairs near their driveways. Others remained behind their gates. Nobody wanted to get too close, but nobody was leaving either. Maya knew most of them. She had served as president of the Cedar Ridge Estates Homeowners Association for years. Residents called her when a neighbor ignored community rules, when a contractor left debris near a shared entrance, or when a disagreement needed to be settled before it became something larger. She had built her reputation on being fair and careful. She had never expected that reputation to matter during a police search. Now it was the only reason several neighbors recognized immediately that something was wrong. A man across the street called out, "Maya, do you need somebody to call your attorney?" "I don't know yet," she answered. Rourke stepped back onto the porch. "You should tell your neighbors to stay out of this." Maya looked directly at him. "They are standing on their own property. They don't need to interfere. Neither did your officers." Rourke's expression hardened. "You're making this more difficult than it needs to be." Maya almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about what stood behind him. "You entered the wrong house," she said. "You know you entered the wrong house, and you're still breaking through my walls." Rourke said nothing. He turned and walked back inside. Maya watched him go. Then she noticed the same thing she had noticed from the beginning. He had asked about the hard drive before anyone had mentioned drugs, a suspect, or any other item associated with the warrant. That bothered her. She called toward the doorway. "Captain Rourke." He stopped. "What exactly is on this hard drive?" He turned halfway toward her. "That information is classified." "Then why are you asking me where it is?" Rourke did not answer. Maya continued. "I've already told you I don't know anything about a hard drive. If you have evidence connecting my house to one, show me. You're not entitled to the details of an active investigation. You are not entitled to destroy property under a warrant for a different address." A few residents murmured behind her. Rourke looked toward them, then back at Maya. "Let us finish." He walked away again. Inside, the officers continued searching. A cabinet was emptied. Another section of drywall was opened. The contents of Maya's desk were pushed aside so the officers could inspect the drawers. A second picture frame fell from a shelf and broke. Maya closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her anger was still there, but she was thinking more clearly. Why would a tactical unit be so determined to find one storage device? Why would Rourke continue after the address had been confirmed as wrong? And why had that strange woman at the fence immediately understood that this was not a drug search? Maya looked toward the crowd. The woman was gone. She turned to the older man who had offered to call an attorney. "Did you see the woman who spoke to me?" He frowned. "Which woman?" "The one who was standing by the fence." He looked around. "No." Another resident shook her head. "I didn't get a good look at her." Maya looked back toward the house. For the first time since the officers broke through her door, she was not thinking about the cost of the damage. She was thinking about the question nobody in uniform seemed willing to answer. What were they really looking for? And why were they so certain it was inside house number 402? The search continued long after it should have stopped. Maya remained on the lawn while the officers moved through the house. One of them carried a flashlight into the study, and another knelt beside the damaged section of drywall. Rourke stood near the hallway, watching every movement. Maya looked toward the young officer who had confirmed the address error. He was still there, but he kept his distance from her. His face showed discomfort, though he made no attempt to challenge his commander again. "Officer," Maya called. He looked over. "What is your name?" He hesitated before answering. "Daniel Price." "Daniel, you know this warrant is for 408. "I know. And you know this is 402. He glanced toward the brass plaque beside the gate. "Yes, ma'am." "Then why are you still inside my house?" Price looked toward Rourke before answering. "Captain Rourke is in charge of the operation." "That didn't answer my question." Price lowered his voice. "I don't have an answer for you." Maya studied him for a moment. She could tell he was uncomfortable, but she also understood that discomfort was not the same as action. He had confirmed the mistake, yet the search continued. A loud crack came from inside. Maya turned toward the house. Another section of drywall had been opened. She felt her jaw tighten. Rourke walked out onto the porch again. "Mrs. Williams, I suggest you stop interfering." Maya looked at him. "I'm standing outside my own home. You're making it harder for my officers to work. You are searching the wrong property." Rourke stepped down from the porch. "We have reason to believe a storage device connected to an ongoing investigation may be inside this residence. Then show me the part of your warrant that authorizes you to search 402. Rourke's face remained controlled. "The warrant authorizes a search at a specific address." "Exactly." He looked toward Price. "Officer Price, get the exterior photographs." Price walked toward the patrol vehicle. Maya watched him go, then looked back at Rourke. "Why are you asking about a hard drive before you've even established that this is the correct house?" Rourke's expression changed slightly. "You seem very interested in what we're looking for." "I became interested when you broke into my home. That drive contains sensitive information. Then you should be more careful about where you search for it." Rourke did not respond. The residents nearby had grown quieter. They were listening now, and several had their phones raised. Maya could see the concern on their faces. Many of them had known her for years. They had sat across from her at HOA meetings, argued over parking rules, discussed landscaping notices, and called her when a contractor failed to finish a job. Now they were watching officers dismantle her home. An older resident named Harold Bennett stepped closer to the edge of his driveway. "Maya, do you want me to call someone?" "Call my attorney," she said, "and ask her to come to the property." Harold nodded and stepped away to make the call. Rourke watched him. "You're escalating this." Maya looked directly at him. "You entered my house under the wrong warrant. I'm not the one escalating anything." He turned away. "Finish the search." Maya followed his movement with her eyes. Inside the house, the officers were opening another cabinet. One officer pulled out several folders and placed them on the floor. Maya immediately recognized them as HOA board records. She spoke firmly, "Leave those alone. Those files contain private resident information." Rourke called back from the hallway. "If they're relevant, they'll be searched." "You don't know whether they're relevant. We'll decide that." Maya took a slow breath. That sentence stayed with her. "We'll decide that." No explanation. No acknowledgement of the wrong address. No request to pause while the warrant was corrected. Just a decision from the man in charge. She looked toward the neighborhood entrance. Cedar Ridge Estates was normally quiet and orderly. Most residents knew one another. The community had its disagreements. But Maya had always insisted that people could solve them without turning every dispute into a personal battle. She wondered what those residents would remember from this morning. Not the legal language, not the paperwork. They would remember the broken door. They would remember the officers searching the wrong house. And they would remember that Maya had stood outside and kept asking the same question. "Why?" A woman from across the street approached the group near the fence. "Has anyone heard from the homeowner at 408? She asked. "No," another resident replied. Maya heard the question and looked at Rourke. "Where is 408? Rourke ignored her. Maya continued. "If the warrant is for that house, why haven't you gone there?" His answer came without hesitation. "We have reason to believe the evidence was moved." "Moved from where?" He did not answer. "Moved by whom?" Still nothing. Maya's suspicion deepened. The operation made less sense with every answer. Rourke had a warrant for another address, but he had not left when the mistake was identified. He was not focused on a suspect. He was not asking about drugs. He was asking about a hard drive, and speaking as though he already knew it existed. That meant someone had told him something. The question was who. Price returned carrying a folder and several exterior photographs. He walked toward Rourke, keeping his voice low. "Captain, the exterior shots confirm the address is 402. Rourke took the folder. Price continued. "There is no 408 on this property." "I know." Price stared at him. Maya heard the answer. For a moment, she could not believe what she had just heard. Rourke knew. He knew the address was wrong. He knew the property was not the location listed on the warrant, and he still had no intention of stopping. Maya looked at Price. If you feel for Maya, a black woman and HOA president forced to stand outside her own home while officers knowingly continue searching and damaging the wrong property, please like this video. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because someone near you may be watching Maya's story too. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next powerful story. You heard him. Price did not respond. Rourke closed the folder. "Officer, return to the team." Price turned toward the house. Maya called after him. "Daniel." He stopped. She did not ask him to disobey his commander. She only said, "Make sure you keep a copy of what you saw here." Price looked back at her. Something shifted in his expression. "I'll do my job," he said quietly. Then he walked inside. Maya remained on the lawn. She could no longer see the broken picture frame from where she stood, but she could see the torn files, the open doorway, and the officers moving through rooms that belonged to her. Her mind returned to the strange woman at the fence. He isn't looking for drugs. Maya had spent enough years dealing with people to know when someone chose their words carefully. That woman had not guessed. She had known. Maya looked through the crowd again. Nothing. No Evelyn. Only residents watching silently. Maya turned back toward her house. The answer she wanted was becoming clearer. The police had come looking for something they believed was connected to this property. They had entered the wrong house. They had discovered the mistake, yet they were still searching. Whatever was on that hard drive mattered enough to make Captain Rourke ignore the one fact he could not explain away. The address was wrong, and Maya intended to find out why. By the time the police vehicles disappeared from Cedar Ridge Estates, Maya's front hall no longer looked like part of a home. The oak door was still hanging crooked from the frame. Several filing cabinets stood open, and folders from the Homeowners Association covered the floor of the study. The officers had left without finding the hard drive, without explaining why they had searched the wrong property, and without offering Maya a meaningful answer. A neighbor named Harold Bennett was waiting near the driveway when Maya finally walked back inside. He was in his 60s, wearing a light jacket over a polo shirt, and he held 2 cups of coffee. "I figured you could use one," he said. Maya accepted the cup. "Thank you, Harold." He glanced toward the damaged hallway. "My wife wanted me to bring you breakfast too, but I told her I wasn't sure you'd be ready to eat. Tell her I appreciate it. Right now I think I need paperwork more than food." Harold gave a small nod. "That sounds like you." Maya looked at the broken cabinets. "Did you get through to my attorney?" "She's on her way. I left her a message and explained what happened." "Good." Harold hesitated before asking, "Do you want me to stay?" Maya looked toward the street, where several residents were still standing outside their homes. "No. Go home and thank your wife for me. But tell everyone not to speculate. We don't know enough yet." Harold studied her face. "You really think there's more to this?" "Yes," Maya said. "I do." After he left, Maya walked carefully through the study. She picked up one of the folders from the floor and checked the label. It was a copy of an HOA board decision concerning a drainage repair project. Another folder contained insurance correspondence. A third held resident complaints. Nothing in those files had anything to do with a hard drive. Maya placed them on the desk and began putting the records back in order. She did not rush. Sorting paperwork gave her something she could control. Her phone rang. It was Samuel Reed. "I heard what happened," he said. "News travels fast around here. Cedar Ridge has always been good at that." Maya almost smiled. Samuel had lived in the neighborhood longer than she had. At 72, he was retired from a career as a civil rights attorney, but residents still called him when they needed help understanding a legal letter or deciding whether a dispute needed to become a formal complaint. "I need you to come over," Maya said. "I'm already in the car." Samuel arrived shortly afterward. He stepped through the damaged front door, looked around the hallway, and then met Maya's eyes. "I'm sorry." Maya nodded. "So am I." He did not ask whether she was angry. He knew the answer. Instead, he said, "Tell me exactly what happened." Maya walked him through the sequence. She explained the warrant for House 408, the younger officer confirming the mistake, and Rourke continuing the search anyway. She told him about the hard drive. Samuel listened without interrupting. When she finished, he looked toward the broken study. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know yet." "That's honest." Maya sat down at the edge of her desk. "Part of me wants to call the insurance company, hire a contractor, replace everything they damaged, and never think about this again." "And the other part?" "The other part wants to know what they were really looking for." Samuel nodded slowly. "Then don't start by proving they were wrong." Maya looked at him. "Start by finding out what they were afraid of losing." She was quiet for several seconds. "You think this was about more than the warrant?" "I think the behavior matters," Samuel said. "An address mistake explains how they got through your door. It doesn't explain why they stayed after they knew it was the wrong house." Maya looked toward the hallway. "That's what I keep coming back to." "Then follow the records." "The police records?" "Start with the records you control." Maya understood immediately. The HOA. She had spent years maintaining files that most residents never thought about. Meeting minutes, complaints, correspondence with local agencies, contractor invoices, maintenance disputes, security camera requests, and notices from city offices were all part of the association's history. She opened a drawer and pulled out a printed copy of the HOA bylaws. Samuel watched her. "You're thinking about calling a board meeting." "I am." "Good. I'm not going to accuse anyone," Maya said. "Not yet. I want the facts first." That is the right approach. Later, after Samuel left to make a few calls of his own, Maya moved to the community clubhouse. The HOA office was small, with 2 desks, a printer, a conference table, and rows of filing cabinets. It was where she had spent countless evenings helping residents settle disagreements. She turned on the lights and began pulling folders. One of the board members, Linda Foster, arrived carrying a paper bag from a nearby diner. "I brought you some food," Linda said. "Egg sandwich and coffee. You look like you forgot what eating is." Maya accepted the bag. "You know me too well. I know HOA presidents. None of them eat during a crisis." They sat at the conference table. Linda looked concerned. "What are we doing?" "Reviewing the records." "For what?" "Anything involving police activity, property searches, damaged homes, missing files, or requests for information." Linda frowned. "Why those?" "Because I don't think the hard drive is the only thing we should be asking about." Linda opened her notebook. "What exactly are you looking for?" Maya paused. "I'm not sure yet." That answer bothered her, but she did not hide it. They began with the older files. Most were ordinary. A dispute over landscaping, a complaint about parking, a contractor disagreement, a security camera request. Then Linda opened a cabinet that had not been used in years. "There's another section here," she said. Maya walked over. The label was faded. "Police-related resident complaints." Maya stared at it. "Open it." Linda pulled the first folder. Then another. Then another. Maya read the names on the covers and felt the room grow quieter. These were not routine HOA disputes. They involved searches, property damage, and complaints made by residents who said something had gone wrong during police activity. She looked at Linda. "How many are there?" Linda glanced through the cabinet. "More than I expected." Maya reached for the next folder. She opened it carefully. The first line of the complaint stopped her. She read it again. Then she looked at Samuel's advice written in her own notes. "Follow the records." Maya closed the folder. "Keep going," she said. And this time, she did not intend to stop with her own house. Maya opened the next folder and read the complaint carefully. The homeowner described a police search that had taken place at a Cedar Ridge property years earlier. The address on the complaint did not match the address listed on the warrant. The homeowner had reported damage to the property and asked for an explanation. Maya turned the page. The department's response was brief. The address discrepancy had been noted. The search had been completed. No misconduct had been identified. She looked at Linda. "Who signed this?" Linda checked the bottom of the page. "Chief Daniel Voss." Maya read the name again. "Do we have the original complaint?" "This is the original." Maya closed the folder, then opened another. A different homeowner, a different street, a different property, but the same basic pattern. The warrant listed one address. The police arrived at another. The property was searched. The homeowner disputed the search. The department reviewed the complaint and closed the matter. Maya placed both folders side by side. Linda leaned forward. "That's strange. Read the wording." Linda looked at the 2 pages. "Address discrepancy," she said. "They used almost the same language." Maya nodded. "And both were closed without discipline." Linda reached for another file. "This one too." Maya took it. The third complaint involved a homeowner named Robert Taylor. The property had been searched after police received information about a suspected storage device. The search produced nothing connected to the investigation. The homeowner filed a complaint afterward. Maya read the final paragraph. "No misconduct identified." Linda looked at her. "That is the same sentence." Maya pulled another file from the cabinet, then another. The room became quiet as they continued. The complaints were not identical, but the structure was familiar. A search was conducted. Something went wrong. Property was damaged or disturbed. The homeowner questioned the officer's actions. The department reviewed its own conduct and closed the matter. Maya wrote the names on a legal pad. Robert Taylor, Marvin Brooks, Eleanor Henderson. She paused before adding her own name. Maya Williams. Linda watched her. "You think your case belongs with these?" "I don't know yet, but the pattern is obvious." Maya looked down at the folders. "No, the pattern is suspicious." "That's different." Linda nodded. Maya had spent too many years in community meetings to make accusations before she had enough evidence. She knew how quickly a serious issue could become a personal dispute once people stopped separating facts from assumptions. She opened Taylor's complaint again. "There should be supporting documents." she said. Like what? Photos, repair estimates, correspondence, anything sent after the complaint. Linda searched the cabinet beside her and pulled out a smaller envelope. This was attached to it. Maya opened the envelope. Inside were several photographs showing a damaged interior, along with an estimate from a contractor. She turned to the next page. The contractor had listed repairs to a door, cabinets, and sections of drywall. Maya stared at the estimate. The same kinds of damage had been done to her house. Linda noticed the change in her expression. Maya, it's not proof of anything by itself, Maya said. But we need to keep going. They opened the Brooks file next. The same type of property damage appeared. Then, Henderson. Again. Similar damage. Maya leaned back in her chair. 3 older cases. 3 different homeowners. And now, her own house. She looked at the dates on the documents. These cases were handled separately. Yes. Were they ever sent outside the department? Linda checked the files. Not according to these records. Maya looked toward the window of the HOA office. Outside, Cedar Ridge Estates looked normal. A man was carrying groceries from his car. 2 older residents were talking near the clubhouse entrance. Someone was watering a flower bed. Nothing about the neighborhood suggested that several families had once gone through serious disputes with the same police unit. Maya turned back to the table. This isn't about blaming every officer, she said. Linda nodded. I know. We need to know whether the same people were involved. Linda began comparing the case numbers. I've got the unit listed here. Maya took the page. Her eyes stopped at the name. Mason Rourke. Linda looked at her. Same captain? It appears so. Maya opened another record. Rourke's name appeared again. Then a third time. She placed the 3 documents together. Same unit, she said. Linda quietly added, same commander. Maya did not respond immediately. She picked up her phone and called Samuel. He answered quickly. What did you find? I found 3 complaints involving Cedar Ridge homeowners and the same tactical unit. What kind of complaints? Wrong address searches, property damage, internal reviews, no discipline. Samuel was silent for a moment. And the commander? Mason Rourke. I see. I also found something else. What? The language in the closing reports is remarkably similar. Samuel took a breath. Don't confront anyone yet. I wasn't planning to. Good. Get copies. Preserve the originals. Make a record of who had access to each file. Maya looked toward the cabinet. Why? Because once people realize you're asking the right questions, records have a way of becoming difficult to find. Maya glanced at Linda. That sounds familiar. It should. You've worked with enough HOA disputes to know that the first version of a document isn't always the version people want you to see. Maya lowered the phone. Linda was already gathering the folders. Let's scan everything. They moved the files one by one to the scanner. Maya read each page before it was copied. Linda labeled every digital folder with the homeowner's name, case number, and date shown on the document. There was no dramatic discovery. No single page explained everything. Instead, the records created a picture that became harder to dismiss with every file they reviewed. A search at one property, a complaint at another, the same unit, the same type of explanation, the same internal process. Maya stopped at the 4th folder, her own. The paperwork from the search at house number 402 had not yet arrived because the department had not released the full report. But she already knew what the report would probably say. She looked at the 3 older complaints. These families didn't have the information I have now, Linda asked. What do you mean? Maya looked toward the damaged files on the table. I know the warrant was for another address. I heard the officer confirm it. I heard Rourke order them to continue. Linda was quiet. Maya continued. If that happened before, and nobody outside the department questioned the reports, then the problem isn't just what happened inside my house. What is it? Maya closed the folder. The problem is what happened after. Linda looked at the names on the table. Robert Taylor, Marvin Brooks, Eleanor Henderson. Maya placed her own name beneath them. For the first time, the incident at house number 402 felt connected to something larger than one morning. She did not know how large it was. She did not know who had protected it. And she still did not know why Captain Rourke had been so determined to find a hard drive. But she now had enough to ask a different question. Who had been moving the information? Maya reached for the next file. Inside was a handwritten note that was not part of the official complaint form. She read it once, then again. It contained only 7 words. Ask who moved the data. She looked at Linda. Did you write this? Linda shook her head. No. Maya turned the page over. There was no signature, no date, no explanation. She placed the note beside the 4 names on the table, and for the first time, she wondered whether someone else had been following the same trail long before she knew it existed. Maya kept the handwritten note beside the scanner while Linda finished copying the last complaint. She had read the 7 words several times, but they still raised more questions than answers. Ask who moved the data. Linda placed another scanned document into a folder on the computer. Do you think someone put that there for you? Maya looked at the note. I don't know. You believe it was intentional? Yes. Linda leaned back. Then, someone knew you would find this cabinet. That concerns me more than the note itself. Why? Because the cabinet hasn't been opened in years. Whoever left this knew where these files were. Maya folded the note and placed it inside a clear document sleeve. We're not putting it back. Linda nodded. Maya gathered the folders into 3 stacks. One contained the complaints. Another held repair records and photographs. The third contained correspondence from the police department. She studied the 3 homeowners' names again. Robert Taylor, Marvin Brooks, Eleanor Henderson. There was one detail she had not expected. All 3 complaints had been filed by black homeowners. Maya did not immediately say anything. Linda noticed. There's something else. Maya nodded. Yes. What? Maya tapped the folders. All 3 families are black. Linda looked down at the documents. That makes the pattern more serious. It makes the questions more serious, Maya replied. We need to be careful about how we describe it. Linda understood. Maya had no interest in turning a specific investigation into an accusation against an entire department. She wanted to know whether the same unit had repeatedly handled cases in the same way, whether those homeowners had received equal treatment under the law, and whether anyone inside the system had failed to correct obvious mistakes. That distinction matters, Maya said. We're not saying every officer was involved. We're asking whether certain people made decisions that should have been challenged. Linda nodded. And whether those decisions were covered up. Maya looked at her. Exactly. The next morning, Maya arranged for the 3 older homeowners to be contacted. She did not send an emotional letter. She wrote a short, formal message explaining that the HOA had located historical records concerning their complaints and that she wanted to confirm the facts directly with them. The first person to respond was Robert Taylor. He agreed to meet at the Cedar Ridge clubhouse. He arrived carrying a brown folder. He was a retired engineer in his 60s, neatly dressed, quiet, and careful with his words. Maya stood when he entered. Mr. Taylor? Robert is fine. Thank you for coming. He looked at the folder in her hand. So you found the complaint? Yes. Taylor sat across from her. I wondered if anyone still had it. We do. He gave a slow nod. Maya opened the file. I want to make sure everything here is accurate before we do anything else. Taylor looked at the pages. They got the address wrong. Maya paused. The warrant? Yes. Were you told that at the time? They didn't admit it while they were there. I found out later. Maya listened without interrupting. Taylor continued. They searched the house, damaged some cabinets, opened part of a wall, and then left. I filed a complaint because I couldn't understand why they kept going. After the officers realized something was wrong, Maya looked at the closing report. Did anyone explain the decision to close your complaint? Taylor shook his head. No. I got a letter. Did you appeal? I asked questions. Nobody wanted to answer them. Maya closed the file. What would you want now? Taylor looked at her for several seconds. I want someone to admit that what happened mattered. The answer stayed with her. Not money, not revenge. Recognition. Maya thanked him and told him she would contact him again. After Taylor left, Linda brought in the second homeowner, Marvin Brooks. Brooks was in his 70s and had spent most of his career managing a small auto repair business. He arrived with a folder of his own. You already have the official records, he said. I do. Then you need this. He opened the folder. Inside were photographs, contractor estimates, copies of letters, and a handwritten list of every call he had made after the search. Maya looked through the documents. Why did you keep all of this? My wife told me not to throw anything away. Maya looked up. She was right. Brooks gave a faint smile. She usually was. His smile disappeared as he looked at the photographs. What hurt was not the damage, he said. We could repair the house. What stayed with me was being told there was nothing worth investigating. Maya placed the photos back into the folder. Do you still have the original letter from the department? Yes. Would you let us copy it? Brooks handed it over without hesitation. Take whatever you need. The third homeowner, Eleanor Henderson, arrived later. She had kept even more documentation. Her complaint was older, but the language was familiar. Wrong address, property damage, internal review. No misconduct identified. Maya placed the 3 closing letters beside one another. The wording was not identical, but the structure was close enough to demand attention. Linda looked at the pages. This can't be coincidence. Maya shook her head. Not yet. We still need more. She picked up the police correspondence. Who reviewed these? Linda pointed to the signatures. Different reviewers, but all within the same department. And then Maya saw the same name appearing in the chain of command. Captain Mason Rourke. She looked at Samuel Reed, who had come into the office quietly while they were reviewing the records. Samuel, she said. This is the same unit. He read the documents. Yes. And the same commander. Yes. Maya placed the files together. This still doesn't prove the whole department is corrupt. Samuel nodded. No. But it proves you have a specific pattern tied to a specific unit. Maya leaned back. That is enough to keep investigating. Samuel looked at the old complaints. Then, protect the records. We already made copies. Make more. Maya gave him a questioning look. Why? Because once people realize what you're finding, the question won't just be who did this. It will be who knew. Maya looked toward the hallway. She remembered the broken filing cabinet in her house and the officers searching through documents that had nothing to do with their warrant. Then she remembered the woman at the fence. He isn't looking for drugs. Maya had not seen Evelyn since that morning. She had no idea where the woman lived, who she worked for, or how she knew what Rourke was searching for. Late that afternoon, Maya returned to the HOA office alone. Linda had left, and the clubhouse was quiet. She was organizing the copied files when she heard the outer door open. Maya looked up. Evelyn Carter walked into the hallway. She wore a dark coat and carried no bag. Maya stood. You. Evelyn stopped several feet away. You've been looking for me. I have. Why? Because you knew what Rourke was looking for. Evelyn did not answer. Maya walked closer. Who are you? Evelyn looked toward the office door. Someone who knows you. Shouldn't trust the first explanation you hear. That isn't an answer. No, Evelyn said. It isn't. Maya studied her. Did you know about the complaints? Evelyn's expression did not change. Some of them. How? That doesn't matter yet. It matters to me. Evelyn reached into her coat and placed a small white envelope on the edge of the desk. Maya looked at it. What is that? You'll understand when you read it. Why not just tell me? Because you need to find it yourself. Maya took the envelope. Evelyn turned toward the door. Wait. Evelyn stopped. Why are you helping me? For the first time, Evelyn looked directly at her. I didn't say I was helping you. Then she walked out. Maya opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. There was no name, no signature, only a sequence of characters. C17. North. Blue. 4. Maya stared at it. She knew enough about Cedar Ridge to understand that it was probably not random. And somewhere outside the clubhouse, Evelyn Carter was already gone again. Maya stayed in the HOA office until the building had gone quiet. The note Evelyn left sat beside her laptop, and the sequence of letters and numbers remained on the screen. C17. North. Blue. 4. She opened the Cedar Ridge property map and studied the north section of the neighborhood. Each street was marked by block letters and house numbers, but there was nothing obvious connected to the code. Then Maya opened the HOA maintenance records. C17 was a storage designation. North referred to the northern service area. Blue was the color assigned to one of the neighborhood's exterior security camera zones. 4 was the camera number. Maya leaned back in her chair. She knew where to look, she said quietly. She called Samuel Reed. He answered from home. "You're still working?" "Yes." "I figured. I found something." Maya explained the code. Samuel listened carefully. "Does it lead to a camera?" "It should." "Then don't go alone." Maya looked toward the hallway. "I'll take Linda." "Good." "And Maya?" "Yes?" "Don't tell the board what you're checking until you know what you're looking at." Maya understood the warning. The HOA had 9 board members. Most were longtime residents. They were not investigators, and she had no reason to assume any of them were involved in what was happening. But the missing files had already made one thing clear. Information was getting out. Maya met Linda Foster near the north entrance of Cedar Ridge. They drove in Maya's SUV and parked beside a small service building used by the Association for Landscaping Equipment and Maintenance Supplies. The building was normally locked, and the camera mounted above the entrance faced the parking area. Linda looked at the camera. "Blue zone?" Maya nodded. "Camera 4. They entered the small office attached to the service building and opened the security console. The system stored recordings from several exterior cameras. Maya selected the camera identified by the code. The footage showed the north entrance and part of the road leading into the neighborhood. She moved backward through the recordings until she reached the period around the police operation at her house. A dark SUV appeared. Linda leaned toward the monitor. "That looks like a police vehicle." "It isn't marked." They watched as the SUV stopped near the edge of the neighborhood. A man got out and walked toward a second vehicle. The recording angle was too distant to show his face clearly. Maya paused the footage. "Can you zoom in?" Linda tried. The image became distorted. Not enough. Maya continued the recording. The man returned to the SUV and drove away. A few moments later, another vehicle entered the neighborhood. Maya recognized it. "That belongs to Captain Rourke's unit." Linda looked at her. "You're sure?" "Yes." The second vehicle passed the camera and continued toward the western side of Cedar Ridge. Maya wrote down the time displayed on the recording. She did not know why the first SUV mattered yet, but someone had been waiting near the neighborhood before the tactical team arrived. That was enough to make her uneasy. When they returned to the clubhouse, several HOA board members were already gathered around the conference table. Victor Hale was standing near the coffee machine. He was in his late 50s, neatly dressed, with a calm manner that usually made people comfortable during difficult meetings. He had served on the board for years and had built a reputation for avoiding arguments. He turned when Maya entered. "There you are. We've been trying to reach you." Maya placed her folder on the table. "What happened?" Victor poured himself another cup of coffee. "We need to talk about the investigation." "What investigation?" Victor gave her a measured look. "You know what I mean." Maya sat down. "Then say it." Victor took a seat across from her. "The board is concerned about how far this is going. I've barely started. You've contacted former residents. You're reviewing old police complaints. You're pulling security records. Those are HOA records. Some of them are." Maya looked at him. "And the others?" Victor folded his hands. "Records that may create unnecessary legal exposure for the association." Linda frowned. "What legal exposure?" Victor looked at her. "If the HOA begins releasing information involving law enforcement, we could be accused of interfering with an active investigation." Maya remained calm. "We are not releasing anything. We're reviewing records that already belong to the association." Victor nodded. "I understand. But perception matters." Maya had heard that phrase many times in board meetings. It was often used when someone wanted to stop an argument without addressing the facts. She opened her folder. "We found 3 prior complaints involving wrong address searches and property damage." Victor's face remained neutral. "I've heard about those." Maya looked up. "You've heard about them?" "Yes." "From whom?" Victor paused briefly. "Residents talk." Maya closed the folder. "That's not what I asked." Victor gave a small smile. "You know how Cedar Ridge works, Maya. People talk." Maya studied him. She had known Victor for years. He was the kind of board member who preferred compromise. He often reminded everyone that property values depended on stability and that disputes should remain private whenever possible. Normally, that would have sounded reasonable. Now it did not. Victor leaned forward. I think you should step back from this personally and let the board handle the matter. This matter involves my house. Exactly. Maya heard the emphasis in his voice. You think that's the problem? I think it creates a conflict. Samuel had warned her about accusations, so Maya did not respond sharply. Instead, she asked, what would you have the board do? Pause the investigation. Preserve the records. Let the proper authorities deal with the police issue. Maya looked at him. The proper authorities already came to the wrong house. Victor's expression tightened. That doesn't mean we should turn the HOA into an investigative body. We're not doing that. Then what are you doing? Maya answered honestly, trying to understand why the same unit appears in multiple complaints. Victor was silent. Linda interrupted. We also found evidence that someone accessed files they weren't supposed to access. Victor turned toward her. Are you suggesting someone on this board did that? No, Linda said. I'm saying we don't know yet. Victor stood and picked up his coffee. Then maybe that's exactly why we should stop. Maya watched him walk toward the door. Victor, he turned. Did you know Captain Rourke was searching for a storage device? Victor stopped, only for a moment. Then he looked back at her. No. I heard what everyone heard. Maya held his gaze. That isn't what I asked. Victor's voice remained even. You've had a difficult situation, Maya. You're understandably suspicious. He left the room. Linda waited until the door closed. Did you see that? Yes. What? Maya looked at the documents in front of her. He knew about the drive. How? I don't know. She gathered the folder and stood. Across town, Captain Mason Rourke sat inside an unmarked vehicle, parked away from the police station. His phone rang. He answered without saying hello. How much does she know? Victor Hale's voice came through the speaker. More than she should. Rourke looked through the windshield. What is she looking at? Old complaints? Security footage? Property records? Has she found the drive? No. Rourke's voice hardened. Then find out what she's doing. Victor was quiet. And if she doesn't stop? Rourke answered without hesitation. She will. The call ended. Back at the clubhouse, Maya stood alone in the conference room, looking at the list of 3 former homeowners. She had known Victor Hale for years. She had never seen him speak to anyone from the police department. She had never had a reason to question his loyalty to the HOA. Now she had one. Maya opened her notebook and wrote a single sentence. Find out who is giving Rourke information. Then she closed it and turned off the conference room lights. By the next morning, Maya arrived at the HOA clubhouse before most of the staff. She had barely slept, not because she was afraid of what Rourke might do next, but because she kept thinking about the same question. How had Victor known so much? She placed her notebook on the desk and opened the security records from the north entrance. The footage showing the unmarked SUV was still on the system, but when she tried to copy the file, an error appeared on the screen. Access denied. Maya tried again. The same message appeared. She called Linda. Can you come in? Linda arrived a few minutes later, carrying coffee and a folder of printed board documents. What happened? The camera file is locked. Linda set the folder down. It worked yesterday. I know. Linda sat at the computer and checked the access settings. Someone changed the permissions. Maya folded her arms. When? Linda looked at the screen. The system shows an administrative change after we left last night. Who has administrative access? Linda, read the list. The board president, the vice president, the property manager, and the security contractor. Maya frowned. Victor? He has administrative access as vice president. Linda looked at her. Do you think he did this? I think we need to find out. They checked the digital activity log. The change had been made from an HOA account assigned to Victor. Maya did not speak for several seconds. Linda leaned closer. There's more. What? Several files were accessed from the main record system after we left. Which files? Linda opened the report. The 3 older police complaints. Maya looked at the screen. Who accessed them? Victor's account. Maya sat down. That can't be a coincidence. Linda hesitated. Maybe he was reviewing the records. Then why didn't he tell us? Linda had no answer. Maya closed the report. Don't confront him yet. What are you going to do? Find out what else he accessed. They continued through the activity records. Victor had opened several folders connected to police complaints, security footage, property records, and one folder Maya had never seen before. Its name was simply Archive C. Maya clicked on it. The folder was empty. Linda looked confused. It shouldn't be empty. Do you remember seeing it yesterday? No. Maya checked the system history. The folder had contained files recently. Then, it had been cleared. Someone deleted the contents. Linda looked at her. Can they recover them? Maybe. Maya called the security contractor. The technician explained that the deleted files might still exist in the system backup, but only an administrator could request restoration. Maya thanked him and ended the call. Before she could say anything, the clubhouse door opened. Victor Hale walked in carrying a stack of printed reports. Good morning. Maya looked up. Morning, Victor. He set the reports on the table. I've been reviewing some of the files you requested. Maya kept her expression neutral. Which files? The police complaints. I didn't ask you to review them. Victor pulled out a chair. I thought it made sense. Why? Because we're dealing with sensitive records. Maya nodded. You accessed the files after the board office closed. Victor looked at her. I'm a board officer. I have access. You also changed the camera permissions. His expression remained calm. The security system had a permissions issue. A permissions issue that happened to lock the only footage connected to the police vehicles. Victor paused. That is an assumption. Maya opened the activity report and placed it on the table. It's documented. Victor read the page. Then he looked back at her. You're getting too deep into this. Maya's voice stayed controlled. I'm the president of this HOA, and you're also the homeowner whose house was searched. So you have a personal interest in the outcome. Maya leaned back. I have a personal interest in understanding why police entered my home under the wrong warrant. Victor shook his head. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're turning a property incident into something much larger. A property incident doesn't explain why someone deleted files. Victor's expression changed slightly. You don't know that anyone deleted anything. The system says the files were removed. It could have been a routine cleanup. 3 police complaints? And a security archive? Victor didn't answer. Linda stood near the filing cabinets, watching the exchange. Maya looked directly at him. Did you speak to Captain Rourke? Victor's eyes narrowed. No. Did he contact you? No. Has anyone from the police department asked what we're reviewing? Victor stood. I think this conversation is becoming inappropriate. You're the one asking the board to stop the investigation. I'm asking the board to protect the association. From what? Victor picked up the reports. From becoming involved in something we don't understand. Maya watched him leave. The door closed behind him. Linda walked over. He's hiding something. Maya nodded. I think so. What now? Maya looked at the activity log. Now we stop assuming. She opened a fresh notebook page and wrote down everything they knew. Wrong warrant. Wrong house. Rourke knew the address was wrong. Rourke was searching for a hard drive. 3 prior complaints involved his unit. The same type of property damage appeared in those complaints. Victor accessed the files. Victor changed the camera permissions. Someone deleted an archive. Maya stopped writing. There has to be a connection. Linda looked at the list. Maybe the hard drive is connected to the old complaints. Maya considered it. That would explain why Rourke was so desperate. She looked toward the clubhouse entrance. And it would explain why someone inside the HOA wants us to stop looking. Later that afternoon, Maya called Samuel and told him what they had found. Don't accuse Victor yet, Samuel said. I know. Can you preserve the system logs? Yes. Make copies outside the HOA network. I'll do that. And Maya? Yes. Be careful about who knows what you're finding. Maya lowered her voice. I already think someone is watching us. Samuel was quiet. Then assume that possibility until you know otherwise. The call ended. Maya returned to the main office. She found Linda standing beside the printer. What happened? Linda held up a sheet of paper. This was printed from the records system. Maya took it. It was a list of the 3 former homeowners. Robert Taylor, Marvin Brooks, Eleanor Henderson. At the bottom was another line. Current investigation. Maya Williams. Maya looked up. Who printed this? Linda checked the printer history. Victor's account. Maya folded the page. The The suspicion she had been trying not to accept was becoming harder to avoid. Someone inside the HOA was not simply watching her investigation. They were tracking it. Maya walked to the window and looked out at Cedar Ridge Estates. Across the street, a resident was collecting his mail. Another was speaking with a neighbor near a parked SUV. Everything looked ordinary, but Maya knew better now. Someone had access to the records. Someone had access to the cameras. Someone had access to information about what she was investigating. And somewhere inside that quiet neighborhood, there was a person making sure Captain Rourke knew exactly what Maya was doing. Maya spent the next morning organizing copies of the records before contacting the 3 former homeowners. She did not want to approach them as a prosecutor or as someone asking them to reopen an old wound. She wanted to understand what had happened and whether their experiences matched what she had already found. Robert Taylor agreed to meet first. He arrived at the Cedar Ridge clubhouse with a thin folder under his arm and greeted Maya with a polite nod. "I appreciate you reaching out," he said. "Thank you for coming." Taylor sat across from her. Maya placed his old complaint on the table. "You've seen this?" "Yes," he said. "I kept a copy. Is everything in the HOA file accurate?" Taylor opened his folder and removed several documents. "Not all of it." Maya looked up. "What is missing?" "The part where I asked them to explain why they kept searching after they knew there was a problem with the address." Maya looked at the original complaint. "That isn't in here." It wasn't in the final file either. Taylor showed her a letter he had written after the department closed the complaint. "I sent this asking them to review that part. I never received an answer." Maya read the letter carefully. "What happened after that?" "Nothing." Taylor's answer was simple. "You said the house was damaged." "It was." "Did the officers apologize?" "No." "Did anyone from the department inspect the property afterward?" "No." Maya closed the folder. "Why did you keep all this?" Taylor looked down at the papers. "My wife kept telling me to save everything. She said if nobody believed us, at least we'd have the documents." Maya nodded. She was right. Taylor smiled faintly. She usually was. After he left, Maya made copies of everything. The second homeowner was Marvin Brooks. He arrived with a larger folder than Taylor's and placed it on the table before sitting down. "You already have the department's report," he said. "Yes." "Then you need to see what they left out." Brooks opened the folder. Inside were photographs, repair estimates, letters, and copies of emails. Maya studied the photographs. The damage was extensive enough to match the descriptions in the official records, but the report itself used much softer language. "Your complaint says the property was damaged during the search," Maya said. Brooks nodded. "That is what happened." "Did the department ever use the word destruction?" "No." Maya looked at him. "What did they call it?" "Necessary access." She looked back at the report. The phrase was there. Necessary access. Brooks shook his head. "They made it sound like they opened one cabinet and looked behind a shelf." Maya turned another page. "What happened to the complaint?" "Closed." "Did you challenge it?" "I tried." "What happened?" "They told me the internal review was complete." Brooks leaned back. "You know what bothered me most?" Maya waited. "It wasn't the property. Houses can be repaired. It was being told the whole thing was a misunderstanding when everyone involved already knew something had gone wrong." Maya understood exactly what he meant. She placed the photograph back on the table. "Would you allow us to copy all of this?" "Take whatever you need." The third homeowner, Eleanor Henderson, arrived later that afternoon. She was careful and direct. She had kept her original complaint, every letter she received, and a handwritten list of every conversation she had with the department after the search. Maya read through the documents. "This report says the address discrepancy was resolved." Henderson shook her head. "No, they never resolved it." "What happened?" "They told me the officers had followed their instructions, even though the address was wrong." "Yes." Maya looked down. Henderson continued. "I asked whether anyone had been disciplined, and they wouldn't discuss it." Maya closed the file. "Did you know Captain Rourke was connected to your search?" Henderson thought for a moment. "I knew his unit was there. I didn't know how far up the chain it went." Maya showed her the records. "This is his name." Henderson looked at the page. "Then it's the same unit." Maya nodded. The 3 cases now sat together on the conference table. Same unit. Similar circumstances. Similar damage. Similar complaints. Similar internal conclusions. Maya did not rush to a conclusion. She looked at Samuel Reed, who had joined them after speaking with one of the homeowners. "We have enough to keep digging," she said. "Whoever." Samuel nodded. "But not enough to accuse everyone." "I know." Maya picked up the 3 closing letters and placed them side by side. The wording differed slightly, but each one followed the same pattern. The department acknowledged a discrepancy, stated that the search had been completed, and concluded without identifying misconduct. Maya looked at Samuel. Why were all 3 handled internally? That is the question. And why does the same command structure appear in all 3? Samuel pointed to the signature lines. Because someone kept signing off on them. Maya looked at the names. Captain Mason Rourke appeared throughout the operational records. Above him, the chain of command repeatedly led back to the police department's leadership. She thought about her own house. The same unit. The same commander. The same refusal to stop after an address problem was identified. Maya folded her hands on the table. "We need to hear from more people." Samuel agreed. "But carefully." "Why?" "Because these families are adults who have lived with this for years. They don't need another person arriving in their lives demanding answers. Give them room to decide how much they want to share." Maya nodded. She turned to the 3 homeowners. "I want to make something clear. I'm not asking you to relive what happened for the sake of my case. Your stories matter whether or not my case goes anywhere." Henderson looked at her. "Why are you doing this?" Maya glanced at the files. "Because I don't want what happened to me to erase what happened to you." The room went quiet. Brooks looked toward the folders. "Nobody asked us for these records before." "I'm asking now," Maya said. Taylor nodded. "Then take them." The meeting ended with Maya making certified copies of the documents each family had brought. She gave every homeowner a written receipt for the materials and promised that nothing would leave the HOA office without their consent. After they left, Maya remained at the table. Samuel stood beside her. "You see the danger now," he said. "I see the pattern. They're different things." Maya looked at him. "What do you mean?" "A pattern tells you what happened. Danger tells you what happens when someone doesn't want you to find out why." Maya thought about the missing camera file, the deleted archive, Victor's account, the printed list of the 4 homeowners, and Evelyn Carter. She still had no idea who Evelyn was or how she knew what Rourke had been searching for. Maya picked up the list and added one more line beneath the 4 names. Source of information unknown. Samuel read it. "You think Evelyn is connected?" "I think she knows something." "Do you trust her?" Maya shook her head. "No." "Do you think she's helping Rourke?" "I don't know." Samuel nodded. "That may be the most important answer you've given me." Maya gathered the documents and returned them to their folders. Outside the clubhouse windows, residents were going about their ordinary day. Someone was picking up a prescription. 2 neighbors were talking beside a parked sedan. A delivery truck passed through the entrance. Cedar Ridge still looked peaceful. Inside the HOA office, Maya now had 3 families, 3 old complaints, 1 current case, and a police unit that appeared in all of them. She had evidence that demanded more questions. What she did not have was the hard drive, and she still did not know who was trying to lead her toward it. The article appeared in the local news feed before Maya finished her coffee. She read the headline twice. HOA president turns personal property dispute into campaign against police. The article described the raid at house number 402 as a property dispute and questioned whether Maya was using her position as HOA president to pursue a private grievance. It mentioned the wrong address, but only briefly. It mentioned the damaged house, but described the extent of the destruction as disputed. Most of the article focused on Maya. A quote from an unnamed law enforcement source claimed she was using community resources to interfere with an active investigation. Maya put her phone down. Linda was sitting across from her in the HOA office. "They're making this about you," Linda said. "Yes, they barely mentioned the 3 families." "I know." Linda looked frustrated. "Can they do that? They can write whatever they want. That doesn't make it true." "No." Maya picked up the phone again and read the article from the beginning. A sentence near the bottom caught her attention. Sources familiar with the investigation say the HOA president has requested records beyond the normal scope of the association's authority. She turned toward Linda. Who knew what records we requested? Linda thought about it. The board and the property manager. Victor. Maya nodded. She did not say anything else. A moment later, her phone rang. It was Samuel. I saw the article, he said. I assume everyone did. The wording is deliberate. Maya looked at the screen. They turned the story into a conflict of interest question. Exactly. They want people to ask whether I'm using the HOA to investigate the police. And they're avoiding the question of why the police entered the wrong house and continued searching after they knew it. Maya leaned back in her chair. That is not an accident. No, Samuel said. It's a strategy. Maya was quiet. For most of her adult life, she had tried to stay away from public arguments. She had dealt with disputes through meetings, written notices, documented votes, and formal procedures. She had never wanted her name on the front page of a local news story. Now residents were sending the article to one another. Some wanted answers. Others wanted Maya to stop. Her phone buzzed again. A text from a board member. We need to discuss whether you should continue leading the investigation. Another followed. Please don't make any public statements until the board meets. Maya put the phone down. Linda looked at her. This is coming from Victor. I think so. Do you want to respond? No. Linda looked surprised. No, not yet. Maya stood and walked toward the filing cabinets. The article is a distraction. From what? From the records. She opened the cabinet and checked the copied complaints. Everything was still there. Taylor, Brooks, Henderson, her own case. Maya returned to the desk. They want people arguing about whether I'm angry. You are angry. Yes. Maya looked at Linda. But anger isn't the evidence. That afternoon, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Every seat was occupied. Victor sat at the center of the table. Maya took the chair at the opposite end. A few board members looked uncomfortable. Others avoided making eye contact. Victor opened the meeting. We're here because the association has become involved in a matter that may exceed its authority. Maya listened. Victor continued. The HOA's primary responsibility is the community. We need to protect residents from unnecessary conflict and possible legal exposure. Maya asked, what specific action do you believe the HOA has taken improperly? Victor looked down at his notes. We've accessed police-related records. Records maintained by the HOA. Yes. Historical resident complaints. Yes. Security footage from community cameras. Yes. All within the authority of the board. Victor nodded. The concern is how those records are being used. Maya looked around the table. Who believes the HOA should stop reviewing records concerning an incident that occurred on association property? No one answered. Victor spoke again. This isn't about stopping the review. It's about avoiding a conflict. Maya kept her voice calm. My house was searched under a warrant for another address. The officer in charge was informed of the error and ordered the search to continue. Since then, we have identified 3 earlier cases involving the same tactical unit. She looked directly at the board. Those are facts, Victor replied. They're allegations. Then let's verify them. We should leave that to law enforcement. Maya shook her head. Law enforcement already reviewed those cases. A board member named Carol Mitchell raised her hand slightly. What are you asking the board to do? Maya answered. Preserve the records. Allow the former homeowners to decide whether they want to speak, and continue reviewing documents that belong to the association. Victor leaned forward. And what about media contact? I haven't spoken publicly. You have residents speaking publicly. I can't control what residents say. Victor paused. That is exactly why we need to act. Maya looked at him. What action? Victor took a breath. I believe you should temporarily step back from representing the HOA in this matter. The room became quiet. Maya did not react immediately. Step back? Until the board determines whether there is a conflict. You want me to step down because my house was searched? I want the association protected. Maya looked at the other board members. Does anyone else agree? 2 members exchanged looks. One of them, an older man named Richard, spoke carefully. I don't think anyone is accusing you of wrongdoing. Maya nodded. But you are asking me to stop investigating. Richard lowered his eyes. Victor said. We're asking you to separate your personal case from the association. Maya looked back at him. You knew about the old complaints before this meeting. Victor did not answer. How did you know? I've served on this board for years. That isn't what I asked. Victor's voice became firmer. I don't appreciate being questioned like I'm a suspect. Maya remained calm. Neither do I. That ended the conversation for the moment. The board agreed to review the matter formally at a later meeting. No final decision was made. Maya left the clubhouse carrying her folder. Outside, a few residents were waiting. One older woman approached. Maya, don't let them push you out. Maya smiled faintly. I appreciate that. Another resident said, you should sue them. Maya shook her head. I'm trying to understand what happened first. The woman nodded. That's why people trusted you. Maya thanked her and walked toward her car. She stopped before opening the door. Across the street, she noticed a dark SUV parked near the curb. It looked familiar. She could not see the driver. The vehicle remained there for several moments, then pulled away. Maya watched it disappear. Her phone buzzed. A message had arrived from an unknown number. There was no greeting, no explanation, only a photograph. It showed one of the older complaint files sitting on a desk. At the bottom of the image was the same phrase Maya had seen in the department reports. No misconduct identified. Maya stared at the screen. The photograph had been taken recently. Someone had access to the records. Someone wanted her to know it. And someone had just reminded her that the fight was no longer only about what happened inside house number 402. Maya did not go home after seeing the photograph. She drove back to the HOA clubhouse, parked beside the main entrance, and carried the printed records inside. She wanted the building empty before she began reviewing what had just happened. Linda was still there. You're back, she said. Maya placed the photograph on the desk. Someone sent me this. Linda studied it. That's one of the old complaints. Yes. Why would someone photograph it? That's what I want to know. Linda looked at the image again. Do you recognize the desk? Maya shook her head. No, but I know where the file came from. She opened the record system and searched the complaint number. The file history showed several recent access attempts. Maya compared the times with the board's meeting schedule. Victor had accessed the file. Then someone had logged in using an administrative account. Then the record had been opened again from a remote connection. Linda frowned. Can you tell where the remote connection came from? Not yet. Maya printed the activity report. She placed it beside the photograph. 3 people had access to this file, Linda said. Who? The property manager, me, and Victor. Maya looked at the page. You weren't working that evening. No, I wasn't either. Linda nodded. That leaves Victor. Maya did not answer. She picked up the phone and called him. Victor answered after a few rings. Maya, we need to talk. About what? The complaint files. There was a pause. I thought the board wanted those preserved. They do. I also have an access report showing your account opened one of them. I told you I was reviewing the records, and you photographed one. What? Maya sent him the photograph. A message appeared on his phone almost immediately. A minute later, he called back. I didn't send that. I'm not asking whether you sent it. I'm asking whether you accessed the file. I already told you I did. Did you give the file to anyone? No. Did you speak to Captain Rourke? Victor's voice became more guarded. I've already answered that. No, Victor. You told me you hadn't spoken to him. I'm asking again. I have no reason to discuss private communications with you. Maya held the phone away for a moment. Then she put it back to her ear. Why are you afraid to answer a simple question? I am not afraid of anything. I'm protecting this association. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Maya ended the call. Linda looked at her. He sounded nervous. He sounded careful. That may be worse. Maya nodded. The next morning, she requested a formal access review of the HOA system. Victor objected immediately. We don't need to treat routine administrative activity like a criminal investigation, he said during the board meeting. Maya responded, Then you shouldn't object to showing the board what happened. Victor looked around the table. This is becoming personal. No, Maya said. It's becoming documented. One board member, Richard Coleman, cleared his throat. I think we should review the logs before making accusations. Maya nodded. Agreed. Victor folded his arms. I have nothing to hide. Good, Maya said. Then the review should settle it. The meeting ended without a vote, but Maya knew the situation had changed. Victor was no longer simply urging caution. He was resisting a basic records review. Later that afternoon, Linda called Maya back to the office. I found something. Maya walked over. Linda had opened the system activity log. Look at this. Maya leaned toward the screen. There, a file associated with one of the older complaints had been copied to an external location. Who copied it? Victor's account. Maya stared at the screen. When? Linda showed her the entry. It happened after the board meeting. Where did it go? I don't know. Maya checked the security settings. The external destination had been removed from the record. She looked at Linda. Can the system recover it? Maybe, but the administrator would have to authorize the recovery. Victor. Linda nodded. That's the problem. Maya walked back to her desk and sat down. She thought about the photograph, the deleted files, and Victor's repeated warnings about protecting the association. The pieces were beginning to fit. She called Samuel. We have evidence that someone inside the HOA accessed and copied the old complaint records. Who? Victor. Do you have enough to confront him? Enough to know he did something. Not enough to know exactly why. Then don't confront him yet. I already asked him about it. What did he say? That he was protecting the association. Samuel paused. Maya, listen to me. If Victor is connected to Rourke, he may know what you're finding before you do. Maya looked toward the clubhouse windows. I think he already does. Then stop telling the board everything. That could make the other members suspicious. Let them be suspicious. Right now, information is the thing you need to protect. Maya ended the call and sat quietly for several moments. Then her phone buzzed. Another message from an unknown number. This time there was no photograph. There was only an address, a section of Cedar Ridge near the north entrance. Below it were 4 words. Look where blue begins. Maya stared at the screen. She remembered Evelyn's first message. C17. North. Blue. 4. The new message felt connected. She stood and grabbed her keys. Linda followed her. Where are you going? To check something. Should I come? Maya hesitated. Yes. They drove toward the north side of Cedar Ridge and stopped near the service area where the security camera system was installed. Maya looked up at the camera marked with a blue identification tag. That's it, Linda said. Maya nodded. But before they entered the building, she noticed something on the ground near the door. A small piece of paper had been folded twice and placed beneath the handle. She picked it up. There was no name, no explanation, only another sequence. R. 11. Glass. South. 9. Maya looked at Linda. These aren't random. Linda nodded. Evelyn. Maya folded the paper and placed it in her pocket. She still did not know who Evelyn Carter was. She only knew that Evelyn knew where to look. And somewhere inside Cedar Ridge, someone was working just as hard to make sure Maya stopped looking. Maya and Linda remained near the North Service building for several minutes, but they did not enter immediately. Maya wanted to understand why Evelyn had directed her there before following another clue. The building was used for HOA maintenance records, security equipment, and seasonal supplies. It was not a place residents visited often, which made it a useful location for anyone trying to move information without drawing attention. Linda looked at the folded note in Maya's hand. Do you think Evelyn left it here? I think so. And you still don't know why. She won't just tell you what she knows. No. Linda glanced toward the camera above the entrance. Maybe she doesn't trust us. Maya looked at the camera. Or maybe she doesn't trust anyone. They entered the building and found the security console. Maya accessed the records using the HOA administrator credentials she still controlled. The camera, labeled with the blue marker, showed the northern service area. She reviewed the recent footage. For several minutes, nothing unusual appeared. Vehicles passed. A maintenance worker moved equipment. A resident stopped briefly near the gate. Then Maya saw a dark SUV. It entered the service area, remained there for a short time, and left. Linda leaned closer. That's the same vehicle. Maya nodded. The image was not clear enough to identify the driver. Can we check the access log? Maya asked. Linda opened the door records. There, a digital entry showed that someone had used an HOA access card to enter the building. Maya read the identifier. Who does that belong to? Linda checked the database. Her expression changed. Victor. Maya stepped away from the screen. Save everything. Linda began copying the records. Maya did not speak until the files were secured. Then she said, "We're done here." They returned to the clubhouse. By then, several board members had gathered for another meeting that Maya had not called herself. Victor had arranged it without consulting her. He stood at the front of the room when Maya entered. "Maya, we're ready to begin." She looked around. All the board members were notified? Yes. Who authorized the meeting? Victor did not answer immediately. "We don't need to get procedural about this." Maya walked to her chair. "If we're discussing my position, procedure matters." Victor Sihil. "Sit down." Maya did. Richard Coleman, the older board member who had spoken at the previous meeting, looked uncomfortable. Victor placed a packet in front of each board member. "We've received several concerns about the association's involvement in the police matter." Maya opened the packet. The concerns were vague. They mentioned media attention, possible legal exposure, and alleged misuse of HOA resources. Maya looked up. "Who submitted these?" Victor answered. "Several residents. Names? We're keeping those confidential." "Then, how can the board evaluate them?" Victor leaned forward. "The issue is bigger than individual complaints." "No," Maya said. "The issue is whether someone is trying to remove me from my position because I asked questions." A board member near the end of the table shifted in her seat. Victor spoke calmly. "No one is removing you. Then why are we here? To determine whether you should temporarily step aside while the situation is reviewed." Maya looked around the room. "You mean the same review that would place the HOA records in the hands of people connected to the issue we're investigating?" Victor's expression tightened. "You are making assumptions." Maya opened her folder. "I have system logs showing your account accessed police complaints. I have records showing your account changed security permissions. I have evidence that an external file was copied from the HOA system." The room became quiet. Richard looked at Victor. "Is that true?" Victor answered carefully. "I accessed records within my authority as a board officer." "And the external copy?" Maya asked. "I don't know what you're referring to." Maya placed a printed activity log on the table. "You are the only person whose account appears in that transaction." Victor looked at the document. Then he looked at the rest of the board. "This proves nothing." "It proves access," Maya said. "It proves an administrative function." "Then explain it." Victor did not answer. Instead, he turned to the board. "This is exactly why this cannot continue. Maya is using the resources of this association to pursue a personal dispute, and now she's accusing fellow board members of misconduct." Maya did not raise her voice. "I am not accusing you of misconduct. I'm asking you to explain the records." Victor looked at her. "You need to step back." Maya held his gaze. "No." One of the board members finally spoke. "Maybe we should pause and have counsel review this." Victor nodded quickly. "That is what I've been asking for." Maya looked toward Richard. "Do you believe the association should surrender its records before we know who has been accessing them?" Richard looked at the table. "I think we need legal guidance." Maya knew what that meant. The room was moving toward a decision she could not control. Victor presented another document. "This is a motion to temporarily suspend Maya Williams from acting on behalf of the HOA in matters related to the police investigation until independent counsel completes a review." Maya read the motion. She felt the weight of the moment, but she kept her voice steady. "You've already decided." Victor shook his head. "We're giving the board a choice." "No," Maya said. "You're giving the board a choice between supporting the president or protecting themselves from pressure." Nobody answered. The vote began. One member voted against the motion. Another supported it. Then another. When the final vote was counted, Maya had lost her authority to represent the HOA in the investigation. Victor closed the folder. The motion passes. Maya sat still for several seconds. She looked at the board members, not with anger, but with disappointment. "I hope you're all certain this is what you want." No one responded. She gathered her notebook and left the room. Outside, Samuel Reed was waiting near the clubhouse entrance. He had not been invited to the meeting. He had come because Maya had called him earlier and asked him to stay nearby. He looked at her face and understood immediately. They voted. Maya nodded. I'm suspended from the investigation. By the board? Yes. Samuel took a breath. Then we work differently. Maya looked at him. I don't have access to everything anymore. You have enough. How do you know? Because they didn't take what you already have. Maya opened her folder. The copies of the old complaints were still there. The system logs were there. The photographs were there. The records from Taylor, Brooks, and Henderson were there. And in her pocket was Evelyn's latest coded message. Maya looked toward the clubhouse. Victor was still inside. Through the glass, she could see him speaking with 2 board members. She turned away. I may have lost the position, she said, but I haven't lost the evidence. Samuel nodded. That means the investigation is not over. Maya looked down at the code Evelyn had left. The letters and numbers meant nothing to anyone who had not been following the trail. But Maya had learned something important. Evelyn never gave her an answer. She gave her the next place to look. Maya closed her hand around the note. Then, I'll follow it. She started toward her car. Behind her, the HOA clubhouse doors closed. Inside, Victor was now in control. Outside, Maya had no title to rely on, only the records she had managed to preserve, the 3 families who had agreed to speak, and a trail that someone had worked very hard to keep hidden. For the first time, she understood that the investigation would continue without the protection of her office, and that was exactly how she intended to continue it. Maya drove past the main entrance of Cedar Ridge and followed the northern service road toward an older section of the community. The road ended near a small storage facility that the HOA had stopped using for regular operations years earlier. Most residents rarely had a reason to come there, which was exactly why the location caught her attention. Linda sat beside her, holding the coded note. Are you sure this is the right place? Maya looked at the address written on the HOA property map. Yes. The code led us here. They parked outside the storage building. The structure was plain, with a metal door and a narrow window near the top. A faded HOA logo was still attached to the wall. Maya unlocked the door with an old maintenance key. The lights came on slowly. Inside were rows of metal shelves filled with boxes, archived meeting records, maintenance documents, insurance files, and outdated community materials. Nothing appeared unusual at first. Linda looked around. What are we looking for? I don't know yet. Maya checked the coded note again. North, blue, 4. Then the second message. Glass, south, 9. Linda pointed toward the far wall. There are blue labels on those shelves. Maya walked over. The shelves were marked by sections rather than names. She checked the numbers carefully until she found the area associated with the code. Nothing. She searched the surrounding boxes. Still nothing. Linda opened a cabinet near the wall. It doesn't look like anyone has used this in years. Maya checked the dust around the floor. Then she noticed a section of shelving that did not sit flush against the wall. Move that. Linda pushed from one side while Maya pulled from the other. The shelf shifted slightly. Behind it was a narrow storage compartment. Maya stared at it. This wasn't on the property records. Linda looked inside. There were no boxes, only a small metal container secured beneath a shelf. Maya crouched down. There's something here. Before she could reach it, headlights appeared through the narrow window. Linda stood. Someone's coming. Maya moved toward the doorway. A dark SUV stopped outside. She recognized it immediately. It was the same vehicle that had appeared in the security footage near the north entrance. The door opened. Victor Hale stepped out. Maya looked at Linda. He followed us. Victor entered without knocking. You shouldn't be here. Maya remained near the storage compartment. Neither should you. Victor looked around the room. This facility is HOA property. I know. You don't have authorization to access archived material after being suspended. Maya held his gaze. I don't need your permission to stand on association property. Victor glanced toward Linda, then back to Maya. You've already been told to stop. I've been told to stop asking questions. That's different. Victor's voice remained controlled. You're making this worse. Maya stepped away from the shelf. For whom? Victor did not answer. Instead, he looked toward the hidden compartment. Maya noticed. "So you knew it was here?" Victor's expression changed. "I don't know what you're talking about. You looked at that shelf before you looked anywhere else." Victor took a slow breath. "Maya, go home." "No, I don't think you understand what you're getting into." "Then explain it." Victor shook his head. "You have a house that needs repairs. You have neighbors who trust you. You still have a life outside this investigation. Walk away while you can." Maya studied him. "You sound less concerned about the HOA than you used to." Victor looked toward the door. "I've said what I needed to say." He left. Linda waited until the SUV disappeared before speaking. "He knew." Maya nodded. "He knew exactly where we were." She returned to the hidden compartment. The metal container was locked. Maya checked the surrounding shelf. Nothing. Linda searched the nearby cabinets. "There's a key." She held up a small brass key attached to an old HOA storage tag. Maya took it. The key opened the container. Inside was a stack of paper records, wrapped in clear plastic. Maya expected to find a hard drive. There was none. She pulled out the first folder. It contained correspondence between the HOA and a local government office. The second contained records concerning property searches. The third was missing its contents. Only a label remained. Archive C. Maya looked at Linda. "That's the folder they deleted from the system." Linda nodded. Maya searched the box again. At the bottom was a single envelope. She opened it. Inside was a printed list of serial numbers. Storage devices. One number had been circled in black ink. Maya recognized it from the coded file Evelyn had given her. Linda looked at the number. "That has to be the drive." "Maybe, but it isn't here." "No." Maya turned the list over. Nothing. Then she noticed a small mark in the lower corner of the page, a blue square. Inside it was the number 9. She looked at the coded note again. "Glass. South. 9. Linda followed her eyes. The second code. Maya nodded. It wasn't pointing to this room. Then, what was it pointing to? Before Maya could answer, the lights went out. Linda froze. "Did you do that?" "No." The building became quiet. Maya reached for her phone and turned on the flashlight. Outside, a vehicle door closed. They heard footsteps approaching the entrance. Linda lowered her voice. "Is that Rourke?" Maya moved toward the door but stopped before opening it. The handle turned. The door opened. Captain Mason Rourke stood outside. He did not raise his voice. He simply looked at Maya. "You've been very busy." Maya kept her flashlight trained on him. "You followed us." Rourke stepped inside. "I've been looking for something that belongs to the investigation." "You mean the hard drive?" His eyes remained on her. "Yes." Maya held the serial number list in her hand. "You destroyed my house looking for it. I didn't come here to discuss your house." "Then why are you here?" Rourke looked toward the hidden compartment. "Because you found something you were never supposed to find." Maya's grip tightened around the paper. Linda stepped closer to her. Rourke continued calmly. "Give me the drive." Maya shook her head. "We don't have it." He looked at the empty compartment. Then, back at Maya. "I believe you." That answer surprised her. Rourke stepped back toward the doorway. "But now you know exactly why I can't let you keep looking." He turned and left. Maya waited until the sound of his footsteps disappeared. Linda looked at her. "What do we do now?" Maya looked down at the serial number list. Then, at the blue square marked with 9. "We find out what Evelyn was trying to show us." She folded the paper and put it away. Somewhere in Cedar Ridge, the missing hard drive was still moving through the same hidden network that had already reached inside the HOA. And now Maya knew the next place she needed to search. Maya returned to the main Cedar Ridge clubhouse with Linda and placed the serial number list on the conference table. The number circled in blue matched the identifier they had seen in the archived records, but the hard drive itself was still missing. Linda looked at Maya. "Where do we go now?" Maya unfolded the second coded note. "Glass. South. 9. They compared the code with the HOA property map and security records. The reference led them to an older storage facility near the southern edge of the community, a building with glass panels along one side and an access point labeled 9. They drove there without telling Victor or the other board members. Inside, the storage area contained boxes of old maintenance records and equipment that had not been used in years. Maya checked the shelves until she found the section associated with the code. There was another hidden compartment. Inside was a small metal box. Maya unlocked it with a key she found taped beneath the shelf. The box contained documents, but no hard drive. Linda looked disappointed. Another dead end. Maya opened the top folder. Most of the papers were internal communications concerning records, security systems, and requests for information. One document listed several storage devices by serial number. Maya found the number she had been following. The document showed that the device had been transferred from one storage location to another before disappearing from the official inventory. Linda read over her shoulder. So someone moved it. Maya nodded. And Rourke knows. A door closed somewhere behind them. Maya turned. No one was there. Then, a voice came from the entrance. You shouldn't have come here. Victor Hale stepped into the room. Maya did not move. You followed us. Victor shook his head. I knew where the records were. Because you accessed them. Because I'm a board officer. Then tell me where the hard drive is. Victor looked at the documents in Maya's hand. I don't know. You know enough to keep asking us to stop. I am trying to protect this community. You keep using that phrase. Because you keep refusing to understand what happens if this gets out of control. Maya stepped closer. What exactly happens? Victor hesitated. You lose your position. The association gets dragged into a legal fight. Residents stop trusting the board. Property values suffer. Maya looked at him. That is not what you're afraid of. Victor said nothing. You're afraid of what we will find. Victor's expression hardened. You don't know what you're talking about. Maya held up the document. Then explain why this device was transferred out of the official inventory. Victor looked at the serial number. He said nothing. That silence told Maya enough to keep going. Who moved it? Victor finally answered. I wasn't involved. Then who was? Before Victor could reply, another voice came from behind Maya. Someone who understood it couldn't stay where it was. Maya turned. Evelyn Carter stood near the doorway. She wore the same dark coat Maya had seen before. Her expression was calm, but there was nothing casual about the way she looked at the documents on the table. Victor stepped back. Evelyn looked at him. You shouldn't be here either. Victor's face changed. You. Maya looked between them. You know each other. Victor did not respond. Evelyn walked toward the table. Maya stopped her. Before you touch anything, you're going to tell me who you are. Evelyn looked directly at her. That depends on how much you want to know. I want the truth. You may not like all of it. I didn't like waking up to officers destroying my house either. Tell me anyway. Evelyn was silent for a moment. Then she placed a small identification card on the table. Maya picked it up. The card identified Evelyn as an independent data compliance and records auditor. Maya looked up. You've been tracking these records? Yes. For how long? Long enough to know that some files were being altered, moved, or removed. Victor shook his head. You have no authority here. Evelyn turned toward him. Neither do you. Victor stepped forward. This is confidential information. So was the data you helped move. Maya looked at Victor. You moved records for them? Victor looked away. Evelyn continued. Victor wasn't running the operation, Maya. He was helping it from inside the HOA. He gave them information about your meetings, your requests, and the files you were reviewing. Maya felt the pieces connect. The missing camera access, the deleted archive, the copied complaints, the printed list, the board meeting. Victor had not simply been cautious. He had been reporting. Victor tried to speak. I was trying to keep the association out of a larger problem. You were feeding information to Rourke, Maya said. I didn't know what he planned to do. You knew he was looking for a hard drive. Victor said nothing. Evelyn looked at Maya. He knew more than he admitted. Maya turned back to Evelyn. And you? I knew the drive existed. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know who I could trust. Maya's voice softened, but only slightly. You could have trusted me. I didn't know that when we first met. Maya took a breath. Then why did you leave the messages? Because you were the only person asking questions without trying to control the answer. Maya looked at her. You knew Rourke was searching my house for that drive. Yes. You knew the warrant was wrong. I knew the location on the warrant didn't match the property they entered. And you still let me find out piece by piece. Evelyn nodded. I needed to know what you would do with the information. Maya's expression tightened. So you were testing me. I was protecting evidence. That doesn't make it feel better. I know. Evelyn opened the metal box again and removed a sealed container. This is what Rourke wanted. Maya stared at it. The hard drive. Yes. Victor took a step toward the table. Evelyn stopped him with a look. You're not touching it. Maya reached for the container. Before opening it, she looked at Evelyn. What is on it? Records that show who accessed sensitive files, who modified them, where they were moved, and how earlier complaints were handled. Maya's eyes narrowed. The 3 old cases? All of them. And the footage from my house? Yes. Maya looked at the container again. You're saying this drive connects everything? Evelyn nodded. Not everyone in the department. A specific group of people who learned how to use the system to protect themselves. Maya understood why Evelyn had been so careful. The evidence was not a rumor. It was a record, and records could be verified. Victor stepped backward. This is bigger than the HOA. Maya looked at him. It stopped being only about the HOA the moment you decided to help hide it. Evelyn turned toward Maya. You asked me why I chose you. Maya remembered the question. Evelyn continued. I didn't choose you. She placed the drive in Maya's hands. I chose the evidence. You were the one willing to follow it. Maya looked down at the device. For the first time, the pieces of the investigation were in one place. The old complaints, the missing files, Victor, Rourke, the wrong address, and the object that had caused all of it to converge on house number 402. Maya closed her hand around the drive. What happens now? Evelyn answered quietly. Now you decide where the evidence goes. Outside, the Cedar Ridge community continued its ordinary evening. Inside the storage room, Maya stood with the hard drive in her hand and finally understood what Captain Rourke had been so determined to keep out of the public record. Maya did not leave the storage facility with the hard drive. She knew better than to carry it through Cedar Ridge in an ordinary bag after everything that had happened. The device had become the center of the entire investigation, and she wanted a clear record of who had handled it from this point forward. I need to preserve the chain of custody, she said. Evelyn nodded. Then we do this properly. Victor remained near the wall. Silent. Maya looked at him. You're coming with us. Victor frowned. Why? Because you're part of the record now. I haven't done anything. Maya did not argue. That can be determined later. She turned to Linda. Call Samuel. Linda made the call. While they waited, Maya examined the container again. It was sealed with a simple security strip. There was no label that identified its contents. The serial number matched the device listed in the old records. Evelyn pointed toward the evidence log. That number is what matters. Maya checked it against the printed inventory sheet. It matched. She looked at Evelyn. How did you get this? I protected it. From Rourke? From everyone who wanted it removed. Victor spoke from across the room. You don't understand what you're releasing. Maya turned toward him. Then explain. Victor hesitated. It contains internal information. So do the records you copied. That isn't the same thing. Why not? Because some of the names on there are people who don't deserve to have their lives exposed. Evelyn stepped in. The evidence will not be released publicly without review. Victor looked at her. You're going to turn it over? Yes. To whom? An independent investigative authority. Victor shook his head. You think that's safer? Maya answered before Evelyn could. Safer than leaving it with the people accused of hiding it. Samuel arrived with a briefcase and a notepad. He looked at the 3 of them. What happened? Maya placed the hard drive on the table. We found it. Samuel looked at the device but did not touch it. Where? Evelyn explained how it had been protected and moved outside the system. Samuel listened carefully. Then we document every step from here. He opened his briefcase and removed a clean evidence envelope. Maya watched as he recorded the serial number, the condition of the device, and the names of everyone present. When he reached Victor's name, Victor objected. I shouldn't be listed as a handler. I never touched it. Samuel looked at him. You were present when it was recovered. Victor folded his arms. That's different. Then the record will say exactly that. Maya signed the form. Evelyn signed next. Victor refused. Samuel did not argue. That refusal will also be documented. Victor looked away. Once the device was secured, Maya sat down. Now we need to know what's on it. Samuel shook his head. Not here. Maya understood. The storage facility was still connected to the HOA network. Victor had access to that system, and Maya no longer trusted the building. They moved the evidence to Samuel's office, where an independent digital examiner could create a forensic copy without altering the original device. The examiner worked quietly. No one speculated while the files were being reviewed. Maya sat nearby with the paper records spread across a table. The first results confirmed what she had suspected. There were access logs from the police evidence system. There were records showing when files had been opened, copied, moved, and modified. There were references to the 3 older complaints. And there were records from the raid at house number 402. Maya leaned closer. There, on the screen, was a record showing that body camera files from the search had been accessed after the incident. Another record showed that the files had later been moved. A third entry showed that someone had attempted to remove them from the active evidence system. Linda looked at Maya. They weren't lost. No, Maya said. They were moved. The examiner opened the next file. It contained a record of internal correspondence concerning the wrong address search. Maya read the wording carefully. The discrepancy had been identified. The search had continued. The report had later been prepared using language that minimized the error. Samuel looked at her. That explains the old cases. Maya nodded. But it goes further. The examiner opened another section. There were records showing that Victor's HOA account had been used to access information connected to the police investigation. Maya stared at the screen. Victor had not simply been careless. He had been providing information. Samuel turned toward him. Would you like to explain that? Victor looked at the screen. I was trying to prevent the HOA from getting pulled into something we didn't understand. Maya looked at him. You gave Rourke information about our meetings. I gave him information because he was going to find out anyway. You gave him the names of residents who were helping me. Victor remained silent. And you told him what records we were reviewing. I thought I was protecting the community. Maya shook her head. You were protecting the people who wanted the records hidden. Victor lowered his eyes. The examiner continued opening files. There were internal messages between members of the unit and records showing how previous complaints had been closed without outside review. One document included a line that made Maya stop. Do not reopen prior matters unless required by external authority. Samuel read it. That is the policy they were following. Maya answered quietly. Not protecting the public. Protecting the file. Another document contained a list of residents connected to the older complaints. Maya recognized the names. Taylor, Brooks, Henderson. Her own name appeared beneath them. Samuel looked at her. This is the evidence you needed. Maya nodded. It proves the pattern. Evelyn stood near the window. Maya turned toward her. You knew this was here. I knew enough to know it needed to be protected. Why didn't you take it directly to an investigator? Because I didn't know who inside the system could be trusted. Maya thought about that. I understand. Evelyn looked at her. Do you? Maya nodded. I do now. The examiner prepared the final forensic copy and sealed the original. Maya requested that the complete package be sent to an independent state-level investigative authority rather than handled through the local department. Samuel agreed. That is the cleanest path. Maya looked at the files one more time. The wrong address, the destroyed property, the 3 older complaints, the deleted records, Victor's access, the hidden drive. Everything now existed in one documented record. No one had to believe Maya because she was the homeowner. No one had to trust her because she was the HOA president. The evidence could speak for itself. Before they left, Maya turned to Evelyn. One question. Evelyn waited. When you first came to my house, you told me Rourke wasn't looking for drugs. Yes. Were you certain? I was. How? Evelyn looked at the sealed evidence. Because I knew what he was afraid of losing. Maya did not ask another question. She already knew the answer. The hard drive was not valuable because of what it was. It was valuable because of what it could prove. And now that proof was no longer hidden inside the system that had tried to erase it. The independent investigative authority accepted the evidence package and confirmed that the original hard drive would remain sealed while the forensic copy was reviewed. Maya was asked to provide a formal statement about the search at house number 402, along with copies of the HOA records and the documents provided by the 3 former homeowners. She did not exaggerate anything. She described what she had seen, what she had heard, and what she could document. She explained that the warrant listed house number 408, that Captain Rourke had been informed of the discrepancy, and that the search continued anyway. She submitted the same records that had led her from one case to the next. The investigators did not ask her to accuse the entire police department. They asked for names, documents, access logs, and specific actions. That was exactly what Maya wanted. The evidence was reviewed independently, and the findings confirmed that several records connected to earlier complaints had been accessed, moved, or improperly handled. The investigation also confirmed that Victor Hale had provided information from the HOA to people connected to Rourke's unit and had interfered with the association's efforts to preserve and review its own records. Victor was removed from the HOA board and became part of the formal investigation. Captain Rourke was suspended from duty pending the outcome of the case. The older complaints involving Robert Taylor, Marvin Brooks, and Eleanor Henderson were reopened for independent review. For the first time, the 3 families were not being told that their concerns had already been resolved. Their records were being examined again. Maya received the news at the Cedar Ridge clubhouse. Linda walked into the office carrying a folder. "They're reopening all 3. Maya looked up. "All 3? "Yes." Linda placed the folder on the desk. "Taylor, Brooks, and Henderson." Maya sat back and let the information settle. "Good." Linda smiled. "You don't sound surprised. I wanted accountability, not a victory." Linda sat down. "You got both." Maya shook her head. "No. Accountability is what matters." The HOA board met again after the investigation became public. Victor was no longer there. The conversation was different this time. There were fewer arguments about protecting property values and more discussion about protecting the integrity of the community. Richard Coleman stood before the board. "We failed to ask enough questions," he said. "We should have supported the preservation of those records from the beginning." Maya listened. She did not use the meeting to humiliate anyone. Instead, she proposed new procedures for the association: permanent preservation of historical complaints, stricter access controls for digital records, documented authorization for sensitive files, and independent review whenever an outside agency requested HOA information connected to a resident dispute. The board approved them. Maya's authority as president was formally restored. When the meeting ended, residents remained in the room. Some had questions. Others simply wanted to thank her. An older woman named Carol approached Maya with a small paper bag. "My husband and I made too much soup," she said. "Take some home." Maya smiled. "Thank you." Carol touched her arm gently. "You did what you were supposed to do." Maya looked at the room, filled with residents. "I tried." "No," Carol said. "You kept going." Outside, the repairs to house number 402 were nearly complete. The broken oak door had been replaced with a new one, made from the same type of wood. The damaged drywall had been repaired. The cabinets had been rebuilt. Maya's computer had been replaced, and the family photographs were back in their frames. One frame had been damaged beyond repair. Maya kept the broken piece, not because she wanted to remember the destruction, because she wanted to remember what had been learned from it. Samuel stood beside her on the front porch. "It looks different." "It does. Do you like it?" Maya ran her hand along the new doorframe. "Yes." Samuel looked toward the street. "You going to stay?" Maya looked at the houses around Cedar Ridge. "Of course." Samuel smiled. "I thought you might." The neighborhood was returning to normal. Neighbors stopped to talk. Residents attended HOA meetings again. The service vehicles that had become common around the property were gone. Maya no longer looked at every passing SUV, wondering who was inside. The house was still the same home. It just carried a different understanding now. Maya had learned that rules alone could not protect a community. Records mattered. Oversight mattered. Speaking up mattered. Most of all, people had to be willing to question what they were told when the facts did not match the explanation. Later that afternoon, Maya found Evelyn Carter waiting near the sidewalk. She was alone. Maya walked toward her. "I figured you'd leave without saying goodbye." Evelyn smiled faintly. I wasn't planning to disappear. You've been doing a good job of it. I had reasons. I know. They stood quietly for a moment. Maya looked at her. Why did you choose me? Evelyn gave the same answer she had given before. I didn't choose you. Maya waited. Evelyn continued. I chose the evidence. You were the one willing to follow it. Maya nodded. And if I had walked away, you would have. That's not much of an answer. It is the truth. Maya looked toward the repaired house. I still don't understand why you trusted me at all. I didn't, Evelyn said. Not at first. Maya smiled. Fair enough. Evelyn looked at the new door. You rebuilt it. They did. You let them? Maya nodded. I wanted the house back. Evelyn turned toward her. And now? Maya looked at Cedar Ridge. Now I want the community to remember what happened without being defined by it. Evelyn nodded. That is probably the hardest part. Maya looked at her carefully. Are you staying? Evelyn shook her head. I have other work. Will I see you again? Maybe. Maya smiled. You really don't like giving straight answers. Evelyn smiled back. I give straight answers when I can. She stepped away from the curb. Maya watched her for a moment. Then she called out, Evelyn. Evelyn turned. Thank you. Evelyn nodded once. Then she walked away. Maya remained on the porch. The sun was lower now, and the street had settled into the ordinary sounds of a neighborhood at the end of a long day. A garage door opened down the block. Someone called to a neighbor. A car rolled slowly past the entrance to Cedar Ridge. Maya looked at the new front door. She placed her hand on the wood. The old door had been destroyed when people entered her home under the wrong warrant. The new one was stronger, but that was not what mattered. What mattered was that the truth had survived the attempt to bury it. Maya opened the door and stepped inside. She looked back once at the street, then closed it gently. The house was hers again, and this time, she knew the people around her understood that justice was not supposed to belong to the powerful. It was supposed to belong to everyone. The lesson from this story is simple. Justice should never depend on a person's wealth, position, or influence. It begins when ordinary people are willing to ask difficult questions, protect the truth, and refuse to let someone else's mistake become another family's silent burden. Maya did not seek revenge. She chose accountability, and she proved that courage is sometimes as simple as refusing to look away. Thank you so much for staying with us and listening all the way to the end. We truly appreciate your time and support. We would love to hear your thoughts about the way this story was told. What did you like? And what could we improve to make the storytelling more emotional, natural, and engaging? And if you have a powerful, inspiring, or meaningful story of your own, please share it with us. Your story may be the next one we bring to life on this channel. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.